Welcome to Rejected Religion Spotlight. I'm Stephanie Shea, and I'm joined today with my guest, artist Alex Coma. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yes, so am I. I'm happy that you reached out to me because as I was looking at your website and your YouTube channel and your exhibition, the information that you provided with me on that, I thought this was going to be a really interesting conversation. So I'm happy that you're here. Let's start first with your current show, your exhibition. This is called Aeon of the Black Sun, and you are in British Columbia right now, correct?
Vancouver Island.
Vancouver Island. All right. And that's where the show is at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. So you mentioned that for the past 3 years, you've been transitioning from a kind of an artist with a plan or personal ambition to more of a vessel for a transmission. And you've kind of linked that to what you've been talking about, soul projects. So I was hoping if you could talk more about this.
Well, yeah, I do Vedic astrology, and so it helped me to get a lens to describe what my life experience is about and see the transits. Like in the Jyotish, you can see dasha periods, which are basically changes in planetary ruling over one's life.
Mm-hmm.
It's all linked with the moon. So the moon basically will dictate the first rulers of your life, and then it'll kind of go down through all the rulerships. And strangely, or like synchronistically, or just that's how astrology works, I guess. 3 years ago, I shifted from a 16-year Venus dasha into my solar dasha. And my sun is in Pisces. So for me, it is a very spiritual time. And it was the time where I started to connect with my soul more directly. And a kind of all my art before that was all about like ego-dissolution. Before that, studying my unconscious through my art. Like it was a relationship with my anima.
Mm-hmm.
And it took like a long time, right? So many shows, many topics I've explored just to arrive to that place where now I have the knowledge and my art is alive enough to point me in the right direction. So synchronistically, like 3 years ago, I sold everything I owned in Montreal, where I was working for all my career, and moved to Spain to start this artist residency linked with spirituality in near a bit south of Barcelona in a national park.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where like a lot of this new inspiration came, the drive of like adventure, of building something from scratch. And like little did I know, I didn't get the visa that I was applying for in Spain. Had to leave after 3 months, and then traveled the world for 3 years. And I've just now, like for the past 4 or 5 months, have a place where I'm living in British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
I think having this openness of mind, having no physical attachments. Of course, you still have lots of desires to like make your way in life, but it was very different than having a home, especially I have like a lot of placements in cancer. Like I have very strong cancer placements, so a home is important. And now I was like, everything was up in the air. And I think this liberated my kind of boxes I had in my mind so that something else could come through. And, now that it's been 3 years, I can see what's been working. And it's really to open up the channel. So the visionary channel. So this, I'm giving a bit of context to describe that this new body of work is very much channeled. Like it has come through like visions that I've had throughout my 3 years. Amsterdam, I've had a lot of. I think that's where you're from, Amsterdam, is it?
Yes, I'm located just outside of Amsterdam. Yeah, yeah.
So that's where like I had for the first time all these visions come through
Okay.
that I sketched out, and yeah, I mean, this body of work is the culmination of me connecting with my Piscean self and getting kind of this more sensitive collective energy. Like I feel more and more this. Yeah, the way I describe it is kind of this. If you're underwater, there's like hot and cold currents. You can't see them, only feel them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in the cosmos. I feel like that's the best metaphor for what I'm experiencing. So this body of work was really much me just trusting, because like from one artwork to the other, they're in the same theme, but they are not like a series. Like before I was working a series, so you're like gonna make 10 paintings, oil, they're gonna talk about this subject and they're gonna have this similar color palette, while this body of work is me having a vision, painting it or making it, and then from like one artwork to another, seeing the links after making them, being like, oh, that's what's coming through. And then after 3 years, I accumulated like 16 artworks, which now I see the bigger picture.
Right.
And it's quite fascinating to see, because it's not a topic that I chose. You know what I mean?
Yes, I see. So do I understand correctly that it wasn't so much that you were feeling like there was like you were being directed in the sense of like automatic writing or automatic painting, but that you were just kind of opening yourself up to paint whatever was coming through you at that moment, and then later on you saw these links between everything. Yeah. Is that how it worked?
So kind of, but not really. It's like in Jungian terms, like you have your anima, and your anima is linked with your kundalini. It's the creative force.
Yeah.
So for me, it was all about developing a direct connection with my art, with my anima. They're the same thing.
Okay.
So I would create something, and then the painting or the object I create, like for the next few months, is like talking to me and giving me all those insights.
Oh, okay. I see what yeah, I understand better now.
And then I have another experience, and then I paint it or I do it, and it's kind of the same spirit that's kind of directing it. It's a relationship, and it's a very magical process in the sense that like it's not linear. Like it's not this is when it happens and then it stops. It's like I continue my life. And then I get an insight. For example, one of the paintings, well, this one in the background that's there, there's the goddess, Egyptian goddess Nut, that's kind of framed around it as a portal. And so at first, like this center part was the original painting. There was not this border around.
Oh, okay.
And then I was house sitting in a house around here in the middle of the night. So it was the first night. In the middle of the night, this painting falls off actually it's a framed photo, falls off the wall. So I wake up, I go check because I'm a bit frightened, like what the heck was that? And it's the goddess Nut. It's just an image that was printed that's like of the goddess Nut. And instantly, like I had not even noticed it before that happened, but instantly I knew like that it was connected to the painting I was doing at the moment, and that she wanted to be framed in this painting. And of course, now, like from having this show up for the past months and seeing all the pieces together for the first time, I understand that it's about the feminine energy and all its frequencies. You know, we have the earthly receptive forces, but this goes all the way to this more Saturnian divine cosmic mother, which is linked with Baina, and all of these frequencies have been channeled through my work, like from like the Virgin Mary, which has a specific kind of frequency,
Mm-hmm.
all the way to the, to Bina, which is the kind of the highest reflection of this feminine energy in a very different way than the material one.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it was interesting to see how they're all connected, and there's a sort of black mirror in there as well. It's like another aspect of our own unconscious mind that is feminine.
Yeah.
The receptive mode. So yeah.
I love that. I love it. Something that came to my mind when you were talking about 3 years and about the astrology. I had been hearing a lot about Saturn being in Pisces, because I'm also a Pisces sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if what I was hearing, this was just kind of the chatter that was on the internet. I don't know if the Saturn in Pisces was a different type of system, if it was the tropical system, or if that makes any difference. I'm not well schooled in astrology, the systems that being. So I had been hearing that there was going to be a big shift, that Saturn was going to be leaving Pisces, and this past 3 years had been feeling kind of really rough and heavy for Pisces because of this heavy Saturn influence that was present, but Saturn was going to be exiting Pisces. So in the Vedic or in the Jyotish, is that also the case, or is it because it's a different system? Are the planets located in different places?
Yeah, so Jyotish is sidereal astrology. It uses the actual position of the stars. So like if you go out of the hospital and when you're born and you look at the sky with a telescope, we use exactly what's there. The difference being like the Western astrological system is 24 degrees before, because that's where the sky was when this system was invented. And they don't have a system to compensate for these precession of the equinox, where the sky shifts every year a little bit more. So this changes 24 degrees. Therefore, Saturn is still in Pisces. And then the big thing you're describing is Saturn going into Aries. Mm-hmm. But in Vedic, there's still like a lot of time before that happens.
Okay.
So it's explained in a different way. For me, I resonate more with it because it's a more lunar understanding. Like you can understand a lot more psychological information about someone through Vedic astrology, if you ask me, just because they have the nakshatras, which is the lunar mansions. So like we often think of the constellation as these big chunk of sky, it's like 1/12 of the sky. Yeah. But in reality, these zodiacs were by observation deducted through these lunar mansions, which are more intricate star systems, like shorter chunks of pies, little pie. Mm-hmm. So, therefore, they're a bit more precise, and all the mythology that we still have access to about these little pie pieces are very intricate. They have their own deities. They have their own kind of story. And every planet, when you're born, is in one of those lunar mansions. And then you can get a lot more details about, for example, the moon is the one you would look first for someone, just because it's the person's inner world. So when you discuss that with them, they're like, oh. And that's why, like, when I work with artists, I love to look at that, because often, like, the reason why you're creating these old myths and you don't even know it, or maybe you do, but those myths are often encoded in your mind, in your psyche, in a karmic way, and you're kind of unfolding that story in your own art, this mythology, without knowing it. Most of the time people don't know about those things, but so it's interesting to see how astrology is so deep, and it has so much implications.
I would agree with that. Yes. I have a friend who is not only studying sidereal astrology in more of an academic sense, but also she is an astrologer herself and uses the sidereal system instead of the tropical system, which is, I guess, more common in the West.
Yeah.
And when she did my chart for me in the sidereal, I felt it was much more accurate than the tropical one, because my moon was in the tropical one, it was in Taurus, and I never felt that was correct. But my moon is in the sidereal, it's in Aries, and it makes much more sense when she went through all of the explanations of all of the different, like you were talking about, all these little very specific details that you were referring to. Won't get into the whole details here, but I just felt it was more accurate for myself, because it's I guess it's the first system. It's the most ancient one. So I think that's really interesting. But for those people, the lay people out there who don't know anything about Vedic astrology, could you talk a little bit about what's the main difference between the sidereal, the Vedic, or the Jyotish than the Western
system? I mean, in Jyotish, there's many different systems as well within it. Like the one I use is North Indian.
Okay.
And so the main difference, there are many charts. So they have divisional charts. So for example, you have a chart. The most important one we use in collaboration with the natal chart is the one that's linked with the ninth house, which is, for example, like it's your belief systems. So you might have, exalted Mars and Capricorn giving you all the drive to like achieve your great work on Earth. But in your D9, it's debilitated. So how you believe it's going to unfold is not favorable to it unfolding fully, even though the access, like the highway for success is built. But are you going to actually believe in yourself enough to like go along the highway?
I see. Yes.
And so you can get these details that that changes everything. Like I'm saying, it's like you have the highway, but do you have the enough fuel in your car to actually go there?
Right. Yeah.
And the reverse is also true. Like there are some reverse debilitation. If you have in your belief system, exalted Jupiter in Cancer, like you'll have this inner world that's so rich in wisdom, like it won't perhaps be accessible to most of people in your outer world if it's debilitated in your D1. But you will be, like, if someone like an astrologer like me sees that, I will want to pick that person's mind and ask him questions, because they probably have a lot access to so much wisdom, and they're maybe a very old soul and people don't know that about them.
Right.
So there's all these, there's charts. There's the D60 chart, which is for past life. So you can see your past life karmas. Those are more intricate because it's like by the minute. If you're like a minute off on your time of birth, these become more sensitive and they can change everything. But you can see the main energies of your last life, and the reason why it kind of for an astrologer, it can give context into why these new karmas are needed to be lived in this lifetime. Because perhaps something happened in the last life. Like for example, for me, I have a Ketu, which is the kind of the south node of the moon. It's linked with past lives, like the baggage you already have experienced in past life that you're bringing in this one. And I have it with my moon, so my mind, which is the most important in Vedic, and with Jupiter. So what this is telling me is that I have not finished what my mind was, wanting to do in the last life. And I'm basically picking up where I left off and continuing, which explains so much about why I felt like acceleration in my path. Like it felt like it went so quickly, because I felt like I was not finished. I'm just remembering. There's a lot of things I feel like I don't have to learn. I have just to remember.
Yeah.
Like I see it and then it opens up something within me. Like So you can see all of that in the Vedic astrology, which I really really appreciate. It's, for an astrologer also, it's understanding the mind of God. Like, of course, in Western it's the same thing, but I feel like there is such a profound experience to see people's charts and all this kind of clarity you get within yourself when you can understand the celestial minds, the celestial intelligences at work. So yeah, I think that's kind of what people would say. And just maybe to close this little chapter, in Western it's more about the sun. They use the sun more as a kind of a base, because it's often used to help people in their careers, their love life, and the sort of more outer world. Right. While the aim of Vedic astrology is moksha, liberation, enlightenment. So like all of their processes and everything you discuss, you try to see in people's chart, is to help people have equilibrium and stop the swing. So you can see maybe I'm swinging very far this way in my life. Well, the astrologer's role is to help them see this so that they can bring back to the heart and kind of, so that you don't create more karmas and you actually pay them and then you can move on,
Right. Makes sense. Do you also read, do Vedic astrology or Jyotish readings for people online?
So like through my platform Rose Umbra, I've started at the same time, like 3 years ago, very synchronistically, which again, the rose is the heart. That's basically it. The heart that's in the shadow, the heart that's within. I have a service where I work with artists, with visionary artists, or any artist that feels the call to learn more about themselves. And so, I do that mixed with tarot. And then I have also these sessions that we do to, I have also a background in ceremonial magic and a few different practices. So I love being useful in the way of giving tools that have worked for me and tools I've developed myself through art, because most of the time I work with artists. So they have already this dedication to express themselves, and that's the best tool you can have, is to learn how to gain feedback from your creations. So I've developed my own tools through the years with my own art, so I love giving guidance about that too. And then looking at the chart in every session and fine-tuning my approach for that person, because every person's different. And the biggest thing is before learning about astrology, I've had this insight about, people's minds. Because I had a spiritual teacher and the way he taught resonated with me, but then I brought another friend in to meet him and he was like, well, I don't really resonate with how he teaches. And then later on, I found out it's normal, because your moon is the receptive aspect that receives information, and it's in a different zodiac sign for everyone. So people will not be as reflective in their mind, in their moon. And some people will need more concrete, do something with their hands to understand it. And I felt like astrology really helps, give the right tools to people. Because if it's a moon in Taurus, you might want to connect with help the person connect with their body so that they can understand their own intuition in their body. But if it's in Cancer, then the person is very can really reflect on have a very reflective mind, basically. Yeah.
Very interesting. I looked up the word Jyotish to see what this means, and it's the definition that I found said it was science of light. So light is very important here. And I was wondering if you would agree that in this context, that light, the planetary light, is influencing the path, or like showing the path, like light illuminating the path, or something like that. And I was wondering how you are using then the actual materials that you work with in your artwork, these tangible materials like lapis lazuli, gold, or even your 3D printed forms. How are you thinking of the cosmic cycles when you're using these different material forms? Do these have special significance for you? Are they representing different aspects of this cosmic light?
Yeah, definitely. Like the project that's behind me, and this new project that is still being shown here, is very Saturnian. And Saturnian, like I have you don't see it in this picture because it would be like on the other side of the gallery, but I made this kind of altarpiece that opens up. And in the center, well, basically it's an altarpiece in the form of the Vesica Pisces. So in the cosmic architecture of the universe, it represents the creation to the divine feminine. And in the center of the actual Vesica Pisces, in between the two interlocking circles, there is the Hourglass Nebula, which is a new NASA finding. I mean, it was a few years ago, but it was in the shape of that Vesica Pisces. And this piece, it's called the Portal of Emanation, and it has, when you close the doors, I put the seal of Saturn on it. So, interestingly, like Saturn, when the show opened, there was 5 planets in Capricorn, which is a Saturn-ruled planet. And now they're all moving into Aquarius. I think there's only Mars left there. Aquarius, the second Saturnian sign. So, like that's the thing that I love to express, is like when you're following your intuition basically is connected with your soul. The soul is the sun, and all the planets rotate around the sun. So your sun basically dictates like everything. So if you can connect with your intuition, you will be in exactly the right astrological timings. You don't have to think about it. And that's what I figured out. Like now that I know astrology, like when the curator told me, okay, this is the opening date. Okay. And then this is the week where we could do your ceremony that I'm doing next week. Like I know it's aligned, and I just confirm with my chart and the transits. But my Capricorn for me is in my 8th house of the occult, of the esoteric transformation. And that's where my show opened, when 5 planets were there. So I knew it was divinely aligned. And then it closes right before my birthday. There's like all these transits, and I mean there was an eclipse last week, and the central mound here in the back, there's like an entrance in the west and another exit in the east of the mound, because I'm working with the myth of the Egyptian goddess Nut, who eats up the sun at night and then puts it out of her in the morning in the east. So I went in this mound for the first time at the eclipse for like 4 or 5 hours. And so I think I'm kind of responding to your question in how it has manifested for me, because now it's like a relationship. Since I'm looking at my chart every day, the stars become part of you. Like I see someone, sometimes I meet someone for the first time, and I can already know their Venus is in this house and probably in that sign. And these planets activate. You are always connected to them, but now you get to understand. There's such a thing as parts work in psychology. It's almost like all the planets are one part of yourself, of your psyche. And in Jyotish, you can also see this in the chakra system. Every planet is a chakra. It's a dimension of yourself. So starting to work with my own art, with these activations I'm doing, and observing the synchronicities of timings. Even like in my past, I was not into astrology as much, but it happened that all my openings were on full moons, and I was just curious. I was like, oh, what are the odds and why? I don't know. But like now I can understand. I have the language to describe it. So yeah, astrology is definitely a big part of everything I do. I mean, probably like about planetary magic. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
You work with these energies and you invoke them. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's a more Piscean way. In a way, it's just like it's more of a feeling way, a receptive way. It's not like actively I want to do this. I'm just open to this magic, and it's happening. So I don't know if I answered directly. I think I
well, maybe not entirely, but we're getting there. I think that by asking the next question, because you were already talking about that, there was this intention, like an intentional timing of this exhibition, and the most striking one, I think, is the ritual on March 3rd that you have planned, and you're leading a ritual activation during this ritual that is explicitly synchronized with a total lunar eclipse. And you also have, I have it here in my notes. Let me check. You have specific Saturn times listed for the gallery hours. So I was hoping that you could talk a little bit more about this intention that you have here set up, that there's obviously a reason why you're doing this. Could you talk more about this motivation behind this, why you were deliberately wanting to do these rituals on these days?
So the show I told you is dedicated to the cosmic mother, to the Egyptian goddess. It's called the Aeon of the Black Sun. The Aeon of the Black Sun, very close to Saturn. Saturn is the Black Sun. It's like, and eclipses for me is also like, in a Vedic astrology, there is the nodes, which is this kind of magnetic field of the moon.
Yeah.
And Rahu and Ketu, and they are the one that creates the eclipse. And I can see through my own mythology, like having Rahu and Ketu in the same signs, both in my natal chart and my Dharma chart, that nodes are very important. And a lot of my deepest spiritual insights happen on eclipses. So, I'll try to explain it all in different parts because there's a progression. So you were talking about the planetary hours of Saturn. So I've been using them for the portal of emanation. So it opens on Saturdays, fully, but also on the planetary hours of Saturn. So every day, once to twice in the opening hours, it opens for like an hour or 15 minutes and closes again. The idea is like, it's kind of like an altar. It's a, the same way as an altar, you give energy, symbolic energy to empower a force. Well, that's what I'm doing with this portal of emanation, so that it accumulates kind of this energy. And then when I do the ritual, so that people will be invited in the ritual, it's a kind of a 3-part ritual. There is a soundtrack in this show. So there will be music that will be playing, but on hi-fi speakers. I'm going to bring hi-fi speakers. And while people are listening to this, they will be gazing in this hourglass nebula, that art piece that's in the center of this opening Vesica Pisces installation. And the idea is that this piece is to bring them to their center them in the heart. And then this last 8 minutes, then they're invited to go inside the mound. inside the womb. This is the most meaningful thing for me. Like at the last solar eclipse, I spent 4 or 5 hours in there getting the instructions for this initiation. And it seems like this initiation is the purpose of my life, is the purpose of my art. It's like working with Saturn these past few years, making this artwork. I say Saturn, the goddess, for me, like they work together, Saturn and this goddess. It has taught me that what is kind of imbalanced in life, in this contemporary collective unconscious that we're all part of, is the feminine counterparts. Everyone's feminine counterpart. I think that is quite obvious, but understanding how to resolve it. And what was shown is like a big part is the feminine rites that were, the pagan rites that were more linked with earth, more linked with birth. All these rites were kind of erased. There used to be so many churches and caverns, which is what I've replicated in the center of this art show. And now it's all these very linear cathedrals, which are beautiful and they have their own purpose. And from my own studies, I've learned that they were based on the proportions of the body, and also they were to represent the feminine receptive body. But there is a lot that has been erased. And what this does is that we don't understand birth in the same way. We don't understand this transition from the spiritual dimension to the physical in the same way. We're very detached from birth. Mm-hmm. And most of the time we're born and re-traumatized. And we start life with a trauma that is hard to heal because we don't remember it. When you're a baby, you don't remember those times. Mm-hmm. Your body remembers it. And this creates all these distortions throughout your lifetime and you don't know it. So this whole body of work for me and from what I've been told is because I've been there's a painting in this show also. It's called the Vision of Osirian. So I've had this vision of this temple that I learned afterwards was the Temple of Osirian, doing my research. And it's a temple of rebirth. And it was underground over a naturally heated aquifer. And they would do rebirth rituals. So like a lot of the symbolism in the work link with this rebirth. Mm-hmm. But to understand a rebirth, you have to understand your spirit. And what happens when you remember and you do these ceremonies of rebirth is that you reunite with the other side. So you're no longer just this material being. You understand, and for me, anyways, it came with a lot of remembrances of what I did before in past lives and how this is a continuous flow. Mm. So that's part of my life mission, is to create infrastructures that are physical that people can go through to help them grieve birth, basically. Mm. This kind of death that we experience at birth, people need to pay attention to that and understand that there is a collective grieving that needs to happen so that we can reunite with the feminine forces, which is the kind of other side, the unconscious, but that connects us with all of the other side. So that's kind of the main idea of this ritual, in its kind of a healing way of transiting, entering the mound and then exiting and communing with yourself. And what happened to me when I was in the mound at the solar eclipse last week, it was a deep feeling of peace, because yes, it's like this mound, it's this cavern, but it also represents the cavity of the heart. So you can even see, so this is like a piece I found in the forest. And when I found it, I got like a little shiver, because I was like, what is that like? And I thought it was a heart, like a real heart. It looked like an animal heart that had just left there. You have the cavities. It looked like a real, and it was still like the same. It looked wet and So I took it because it was just on the floor, like it was not even attached to anything. And now it's part of the show. There's a lot of symbolism linked with the heart. So like when I was in this mound, again, it's linking with the mysteries of Cancer, which are the heart, linked with the mother, the heart, the home. But more than that, emotional safety is what we lack from this not grieving our birth, is emotional safety. Like feeling like you can be vulnerable to be yourself and you don't have to be in your shell or put a mask and hold on to the mask all your life. And this is a place in this mound, like I even created a specific essential oil mix for inside the mound that is very connected with Rosa centifolia, which is rose, basically. Rose essential oil to open up the heart. So I work with fragrances as well. And there's even a symbolic heart like on the top here inside the mound, but it's in the dark, so no one will know. But there's another one of those hearts that's hung there. There's all these symbolic clues that I was guided to put there. But you feel just so safe, like in there. I have never felt, so the metaphor is kind of weird, but I was really feeling like I was a crab. So, you know, we hear like the archetype of Cancer is this crab you see like on the beach and goes sideways and is like everywhere, very frightened. And that's how Cancerian people often are. Like they have difficulty facing emotions directly because it's so threatening. Like they try to avoid it. And then that's why it's linked with the home as well, because when they go back home, finally they can breathe and be themselves in their little safety zone. So this is the heart, like the true home is the heart. And when I was in there, I felt like a crab, but instead of being on land, I was underwater where it's dark in my shell. And then you just feel the tides, you know, but you feel so safe. You feel so protected. There can be some, because you can hear in the soundtrack of the show too, there's like this siren at some point that looks like a World War siren, like panic. And it's kind of counterintuitive, like, why is this there? There's a reason. But when you're in the mound and you hear this siren outside, you don't fear it because you feel like you're at the bottom of the ocean. So there could be cataclysms on Earth and they're like the world is changing. But if you're in your heart and that means you're connected with the other side already and you're not afraid of death and you're just in peace. And you'll see in this art show, there's a lot of these images that are this intermediate spaces of the heart. You're neither in the physical or in the material. You're just floating in between. And this is a place of comfort. You feel so at peace and so stable. And that's where you can really love, because love the dark, love the light, because you see it both at once. So when people go through this, they have 8 minutes in the mound, symbolic also. So 8 minutes of link with Saturn.
With Saturn, yeah. That sounds wonderful. And as you were talking about this, it just made me think about this, a previous interview that I did with a musical collective called Lux Interna. And their most recent work, their album, is called New Wilderness Gospel. And they are also exploring this idea of the darkness as a creative opportunity of rebirth, but that you have to go dark before you can come back into the light, as it were. That there's this almost healing aspect of this darkness, that it's not fear-based. So a lot of people get that idea of, the darkness, that's something scary, or, it's something I shouldn't want to aspire to or want to desire to have. But it's actually a very natural process. It is a natural thing to have these introspective, dark times, or even times of rest, times of healing, times of stillness, that these are regenerative. These are very beneficial for us. We can't always be in the light in that regard. There are these moments where we do need to retreat into this darkness, into the cave, into the shell, or it's for regeneration. It's for that time of also spiritually, I guess you could say that it's also this. It's not only just maybe mental or emotional, but most definitely the spiritual time where you can also, as you were talking about before, this time of transforming, and it's a time of growing and birthing new ideas as well. It has to take place first in this darkness, and it really resonated with me then, and it's very much resonating with me now as you talk about this safe space where you're connected to the heart, and it's very beautiful imagery that that comes up when you talk about that. So thank you for sharing that. I guess I would maybe like to shift a little bit to your work that you do with your podcast. You are also the host of the Blue Hour podcast, and this is the integration of the visible and the hidden. So we're coming back to this kind of this darkness as well, because you structure the show into solar and lunar sides. And I was hoping that you could expand more on this and why you think that's also an important aspect for artists, for visionary artists, to broadcast this hidden side as well as the more visible side.
Yeah, like when I was mentioning earlier that my art doesn't stop, like when I leave the studio, it's the same principle. Like these concepts that I'm exploring in this mound is who I am and what I'm here to do. So it has influence in all aspects of my life. This podcast is a good example of this. I think it comes from like, it's like a little bit rebellious, like in my Aries self. I felt like institutional art is often in the hyper dry intellectual, and there's nothing wrong, and there's actually a lot of good in that. But it's sometimes, for me anyways, as an artist trying to make my way in the contemporary art realm, it makes it tricky to not censor yourself, because some things are taboo. Some things in certain cultures are not understood. They're not, people don't deal with them on a daily. So they are often, because of religion and all the drama happening in religions as well, they have been tabooed. So I feel like the inner world of artists have been repressed in a way. Like you always create from the inner world, but you never talk about it in the contemporary art world. You always put into beautiful images, beautiful philosophical terms, embellish your work with words. And I wanted to create a platform for visionary artists that there is actually, on the opposite, you're encouraged to talk for like the second part, specifically only about your subjective side, stuff that doesn't need proof, tangible evidence, academic, peer-reviewed study. Can be truly transparent. What are you dreaming about these days? Which color? What's your connection with the color you're using in your work? Like how do you connect with pigments and colored pigments? Like I want to know how people feel, like, and because that's the idea is like, since the myth of Adam and Eve, like this is a myth of disconnecting the conscious and the unconscious. And now I feel like the age of Aquarius is the reuniting. In Egyptian mythology, it has been said that like we are exiting the age of Osiris, this very patriarchal masculine era, while before it was Isis, which was very feminine, connected to earth. And now we're in the age of Horus. We're entering the age of Horus. It's uniting both hemispheres of the brain, both hemispheres, the heart and the intellect connecting together. And that's what I'm feeling. And I think art always comes from this polarity. If you look in the tarot, in the Thoth deck, the art card is the unity of two opposites. And that's what really creates art. So I think my role, or what I'm trying to do, is encourage this by, like, now I've been having on my platform like very successful and prominent visionary artists and speakers and people that are into spirituality and are creative. And so giving them this platform, and then people look to this, and then they're it. I think slowly it changes the narrative about art, and it's already shifting without me doing anything. Like I feel like I'm tapping in the current and putting my soul into it. Other people are doing it. I'm seeing different projects like that emerging here and there, and it's a collective effort. That's the way I decided to approach it, is to give artists a segment to talk about their career, more like a casual talk. We discuss casually, and then the second part is literally me asking questions that are subjective. I want to understand what's on the other side. What are your fears? That's why in this second segment I always have this 3-part question I ask them, because I want also to help people see the bigger picture, that we're all connected to these 3 questions. So it's like, what is the thing that gives you the most joy? So then this is kind of the Kundalini energy. This is what your Rahu, this is the north node of the moon. This is what you're here to do in the material world, is what gives you pleasure. That's usually what it's connected to. People get pleasure from work. Some people get pleasure from different things. But following this trend, and then the second question is, what ruptures this pleasure? What comes in the way all the time? This is your karmas. This is what you have to pay. And then the third question, how through your art, through your life, have you overcome this so you can alchemize this and go back to joy after that and to pleasure? So this is the third question. So often it's like, I found a way when I'm feeling this way to do this, and it brings me back. So I think it's just I think that's what I would say.
Those are great questions to think about, and I personally feel that it's not just artists that could ask themselves those questions. I think everybody could ask those questions of themselves.
Everyone that has a Kundalini.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, very, 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 very interesting questions, and I would encourage my viewers and listeners to check out your podcast as well, because you have some really interesting people there and on your show, and you talk about some really diverse topics, but also just really very thought-provoking, interesting things that you talk about that I don't hear a lot in other podcasts. You have a really nice, unique way of approaching it, I think. So yeah, I would really recommend that to other people as well. But to come back to the artists that you are, you're trying to act as kind of a vanguard, as it were, for artists. You have your project, your platform, Rose Umbra, as you mentioned before. You've kind of, as you state, you've moved from being an individual artist to someone that is helping other artists as well, other creators as well. And you talk about, you have terms like strategic recalibration and signal discipline. And these terms, of course, are indicative of a language for spiritual growth. But why is it that you feel that artists today need this level of discipline and strategic installation to survive this the current culture that we're in today?
I think it's more about like seeing the bigger picture. Like we are in the era of the individual, like the kind of star artists.
Yeah.
And that is what dictates most of the artists' aspirations. We want to be in that gallery that will display you in your best light and
right.
into this celebrity, and then you can live from your art and sell your stuff for $100,000. So I think this era is ending. Like, we're ending this star system, this fake star system. And now we're into the Aeon of the black sun. Black sun shines. Don't get me wrong. It's the most shiny thing ever, but it shines invisibly. You don't have to be seen. It's about like doing things for the collective. It's very Aquarian, the age of Aquarius. You are creating art because it feels good for you. And because it feels good for you, you're doing something for the collective. That's kind of the ingredients of it. So that's what I want to do with this Rose Umbra, is with the platform of the podcast and the grant I offer as well, and different venues like that, the retreats, help people be of service with their creation and think of the bigger picture. That's the way to kind of resolve, or if I, in my own opinion, like to resolve this ego trend of trying to be successful to the detriment often of others. You have to step on others sometimes to like get there.
Yeah.
But when your art is your anima, when your art serves, it's connected with everything because it's connected with something way deeper than your ego, then it embellishes everything it touches. It brings consciousness to people that encounter your work. And this has a ripple effect. Everyone that gets infected by this inspiration will themselves want to be of service and help others. And it affects your art. It affects everything else in your life. It just changes kind of the angle you perceive life to be. Like, you're born and you have to get to the top and then you die. No, like you're born and you're connected with everything else. And we all have our souls that are rippling out our own beautiful light. And because I see it like almost like as an organ of like every cell is like a sun, and we are all having our sun. And if we do exactly what we feel is right, and we will create this beautiful ecosystem of a functioning, healthy body. So that's kind of the main premise for everything I do with Rose Umbra. And what I think artists need is just to hear this perspective and to start putting it in practice and understanding, like, to understand the subconscious. I think it's important to understand symbolism. That's a big thing that I help artists see, is how to talk the language of dreams, the language of subconscious, and understand your work. You know, go back in the past works you've done, study them in another perspective. What was your unconscious trying to tell you at that moment in your life when you created this, to get a narrative going where now you become conscious as you create. You're not just creating from desires and, oh, I think this gallery is going to like this. I think my peers are going to be impressed with this. Like, it changes everything, I think.
Very inspiring conversation. I thank you for this. Where can people find you online?
I have my alexcoma.world as my artwork website, and it's the handle for my Instagram. Rose Umbra, same thing, roseumbra.com, @roseumbra on Instagram. You can sign up to the newsletter there on my website too. So like, we have we're thinking about having a retreat for visionary artists in end of May in Spain. So yeah, lovely. You can see that be announced on these platforms.
Yeah, okay. And the show is in Vancouver Island in British Columbia, and this goes until March 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
March 15th.
March 15th.
And then the lunar eclipse, if you're around, like, there's not a lot of space, but there's a few space left on March 3rd. It's the lunar eclipse.
Okay.
So there will be a ceremony, and this is something I think I'm going to carry on and replicate in other contexts in the future.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you, Alex. It has been a pleasure to talk with you about your work, about your exhibition, but also about your podcast, about your platform, about your ideas. And thank you for being here and for making the time to talk with me about all of this. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you taking time also to invite me on this platform. It was a pleasure talking to you and to express all this things that are working through me. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to create more spaces for this type of discussion. I have my standard interviews with academics, and we talk about research, and that's wonderful. However, there's also this praxis, the practice of all of this, and for me, that's also the creative outlet is also incredibly important for me. So I like to make more. As I continue along, I like to make more time and space for these types of discussions as well. So I thank you for allowing that and for being here with me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.